how bad are our priorities right now? When we're sitting here 39th in fourth grade reading proficiency, you have volunteers wanting to help on that are being more or less shoved away because you need to learn all this bias training. If you look, correlation and causation are not the same thing with respect to all these race-based things that they want to show you. If you want to show the number one, indicator that has the highest statistical correlation between education levels, it's poverty. It is money. The more that we can lift people out of poverty, the better their education is going to be. You do that by making sure that single mothers and by young couples are not saddled with hundreds and thousands of dollars of tax for going and working and being incentivized to stay home. My brother, as a small business owner, has told me about people that have said, I can't have that many hours because it's going to trigger the point where I'm going to either have to pay my loans back or I'm not going to be able to qualify for my housing. And we are literally putting this incentive for people to stay at home. And then on top of that, I've represented a number of affordable housing businesses. They are leaving and have left the state of Minnesota because of how the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency treats them. That they are saying they're making it so unpalatable for them to be able to conduct business here. They're saying, screw it, I'm going to another state. But this has been building year after year. And again, I'm sorry to get my soapbox, but this is among the reasons that I'm running. Nobody's doing anything about this. All they ever do is complain. And we just have to actually accomplish something here.
Welcome to a brand new episode of the Michele Tafoya podcast. Just do me one favor. Doesn't cost you a dime. Just click subscribe if you're on Apple Podcasts, Rumble, Spotify, YouTube. Just click subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to have you automatically download these every time they come out. We're in the middle, and actually we're getting to the end of this series of interviews with Republican gubernatorial candidates for Minnesota. The Democrat candidate is Tim Walz, who has not acknowledged our invitation to have him on, but we're interviewing all the Republicans so you can get to know them a little bit better as you prepare to take a vote next year in Minnesota. I think for some people nationally, this is interesting too, given all the fraud stories in Minnesota. So hopefully you're all listening, sharing, and getting to know these people. Chris Madel is today's subject matter. He is, you can find him at Madel for Governor, Madel, just one D. But it rhymes with paddle, he told me. It's not Madel, it's not Middle, it's not Madel. It's Chris Madel, Madel for governor.com. He is our guest. We'll grill him on why he's entering this very loaded field. That's next. Chris, thank you for joining us. The first question I've been asking every candidate is, this field, and especially now, this field is getting big and bigger, and we're up to 10, I believe, now. So obviously, you feel that there's a void that you can fill. Why do you want to run?
First, thank you for having me on, Michelle. Big fan of your podcast, number one, so thank you.
Thank you.
The number one reason that I'm really interested in running is that I was really kind of propelled to do it because I just don't see people actually speaking to the issues in such a way that I think that they can actually convince voters to come their way. And I think that there's a lot with respect to fraud, with respect to police, with respect to education that is just not being communicated right now.
Okay. So I was going to ask you what those issues are. And there we go. 1, 2, 3. How seriously do you think Minnesotans are taking this fraud situation? I hear just kind of anecdotally, some people are livid and other people are like, that's government for you. What are you hearing?
I think the national attention that you and others have brought to it has changed. It's been a sea change, I think, here in the last year. I think that what I'm finding, I'm downtown Minneapolis, so I spend half my time, with people that are not of the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. The amount of people that I'm talking to with respect to Democrats are hopping mad about it right now, and they don't understand why Walz has done zero about it over and over and over again. And the more that keeps coming out, just yesterday now we're putting a pause on adult daycares now. It seems like it's drip, 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 everything that's coming out right now. And I think that people are actually realizing the extent of this. The thing that I was really taken aback by was the Star Tribune's attempt to say that it was just a couple $100 million of fraud, which I think is ridiculous. I think it's billions.
It is billions, and it could be $1, and we should be pissed off.
I agreed, and that's why I just But imagine the decision making that went into doing an article about that in the face of an acting U.S. attorney saying that it's billions. He has access to grand jury material, and yet they think that they can somehow educate us on how much that this is all going to be. It really is pretty shocking to me. But I keep hearing some people say it's like 2 or 3. I honestly think it's north of 10. I sincerely believe that, and I think that once you actually get in and start taking a look at some of these spreadsheets, cross-referencing the spreadsheets with known people from Feeding Our Future and others, I think you're going to find that this has really been rampant for a long time, and that we've been spending so much money on fraud. And then I just talked to a chiropractor today who's finding out that on January 1st, the Medicaid reimbursement is going to be gone for adults with respect to that he got line item vetoed. And then I find that cops' disability payments and firefighters' disability payments were just reduced by the bipartisan legislature this last time. It's just...
And that is a result of the fact that the money isn't there? Why are those things happening?
I have no clue, especially when I'm talking about law enforcement right now. I mean, we're having such a difficult time recruiting with respect to law enforcement, and law enforcement has been through so much right now in Minnesota. Why they are choosing that time, and again, this is Republicans and Democrats. This is not just Democrats that just did this. It is astonishing to me, that's among the reasons. I've been at this for about 2 weeks, and I've already got the Minneapolis Police Department's Federation endorsing me. I don't see a lot of law enforcement flocking to any other candidate. They know that I have their back.
How will you have their back? If you're elected, what can you do for them on day one? Well, we say day one, but you know what I mean. I know
what you're talking about. There's a number of things. So first of all, like when I represented Trooper Ryan Londrigan, and when he's a hero charged with murder, manslaughter, and first-degree felony assault by Mary Moriarty, Walz dangled that I'm going to take this prosecution away from Moriarty and give it to Ellison. I knew that Ellison was conflicted on that because he represented the state patrol and he was going to have to give it to another prosecutor. But that's a Minnesota statute 8.01. The governor has the power to take away any criminal prosecution from a county attorney, give it to the attorney general. Then the attorney general usually will farm that out to a former county attorney or an existing county attorney for prosecution. If I see something like that happens with Mary Moriarty again, that's going to happen immediately after the officer is charged. I understand use of force. I've spoken to dozens of use of force experts. These police officers are going to know in this state that there's going to actually be a governor that's going to have their back with respect to criminal prosecutions. And on that point, the Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association did a poll, and the number was over 90% were very concerned or extremely concerned that they were going to be criminally charged for doing something on the job. I mean, that is just a shocking number.
We've seen it. I mean, we see it happening. Police are afraid to do their jobs. And the other experience I think that police are seeing, and this, again, it's anecdotally, is you can find someone who has robbed a store, stolen a car, and you're going to put them in jail, they're going to be processed, and they're going to be out in 3 hours or the next day. That has got to be exhausting for police.
It is a rinse and repeat. And this is one of the next thing that I really want to get past, that I think is just common sense legislation, and I don't understand why something hasn't been done about it. But if you read Minnesota statutes about a felon in possession of a firearm, that there is a quote unquote in state court a mandatory minimum for a felon in possession of a firearm. But the statute says that it's not a mandatory minimum if the prosecutor or if the judge don't want it to be a mandatory minimum. So guess what happens? There's never been a mandatory minimum.
So that's the mandatory minimum is there except if someone doesn't want it to be there, and then it's not there. So there's no point to it.
And just to your point, Michelle, that imagine you are encountering the same people, because again, there's not a ton of these really hardened criminals that are out in Minnesota. We are talking about a relatively small group. But from a police officer standpoint, you have these felons that are in possession of guns, and they are turning right back onto the streets within a couple days after they've been arrested, and nothing is happening to these people. They just keep going through the system over and over. Well, how difficult that has to be for your line cop to actually deal with. And you just, when you add that together with the Mary Moriartys and the Tim Walzes and the Keith Ellisons of the world, you just get so disillusioned, and you think that, why am I doing any of this? Why am I putting my butt on the line to protect everybody when it looks like our leaders don't care? And and that's one of the reasons, again, that's really near and dear to my heart, is that the support that I've had of law enforcement has just been, honestly, it's been overwhelming to me. And it's been one of the, frankly, of everything in my legal career, one of the greatest achievements of my life. And I just want them to know that there's not going to be anybody that's going to have their back more than Chris Madel. And I want to actually turn it around the Twin Cities, because this is the drug hub for the rest of the state too. And to the extent that we can start enforcing law here and putting people behind bars where they belong, we can really start improving not only downtown, not only with respect to property values, bringing business back, but we can also start improving the fentanyl distribution, the meth distribution that is going up to places like Bemidji, et cetera, that is making those communities so difficult to live in.
This brings me to the subject of ICE. We've got ICE officers, again, immigration customs enforcement, that the federal government is deploying here to Minnesota. They've done it to New Orleans, Los Angeles, Chicago, various places where they feel there is a target-rich environment for people who are not here legally, particularly, quote-unquote, the worst of the worst. They're being characterized as the Gestapo by our current governor. They're being characterized in all kinds of ways. People may disagree with the methods, but there are laws in place. And they are, as far as I understand, following the law. How would your administration deal with the federal government in that way, in terms of ICE and the other ways that we can crack down on crime here statewide?
During my launch announcement, somebody asked me, and it was more from a reporter that was very much kind of anti-ICE. Law enforcement has to support law enforcement, period. And the thing that I am just honestly amazed by, because, there's a lot of hypocrisy in politics. I mean, we know that this one to me, though, is off the chart. When I drive home frequently, especially in the summer, and I go under a pedestrian bridge under Louisiana Avenue in Golden Valley, there's almost always, especially on Fridays, a sheet up there with some people, and it says, "No kings, follow the rule of law." But when it comes to immigration enforcement, and they're actually trying to arrest some of these pedophiles, arrest some of these domestic violence convicted people, and they're actually trying to get some of these horrible people off of our streets, they're standing in front of law enforcement. And it's as if, they're supporting, I'm very much in favor of the rule of law as long as you follow my rules and my laws. We are not living in a cafeteria plan with respect to the United States law. You don't get to pick and choose which law you want to follow and which ones you don't. Yeah. And when these brave men and women are out there, and again, calling these sorts of people the Gestapo is just beyond offensive to me. I mean, and I say, I was born and raised a Catholic, but, when I hear people doing these sorts of lazy analogies to the Holocaust and to Nazis and that sort of thing, it just shows me how ignorant some people are, that they actually have no concept of what history is. Yeah. But, with respect to ICE enforcement in Minnesota, I'm honestly embarrassed by how Minneapolis is approaching these people. I mean, when these agents are out there, and again, they're putting their butts on their line for us. And I keep reminding people, we have two major drug enforcement agencies federally. The first one's the DEA. They do things, frankly, within our borders, the Drug Enforcement Administration. The transnational one is Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. And that goes right to that matter that they had on Hennepin Avenue a few months ago, where everybody showed up in order to try to get in the way of them. They were trying to do a search warrant, effectuate a search warrant on a drug conspiracy. And by the time that they got there, there was nothing left in the apartment. I mean, who are these people actually trying to protect? And again, I understand, you get the TikTok mob that, everybody kind of gets in their own little corner. But I think that some of these people, it's just need to kind of reflect on what it is to be an American and what it is that we need to actually be in this for all of us together. And if they don't like immigration and customs enforcement, frankly, then they need to vote out whomever they don't like, or they need to get the law changed. But I'm not going to sit here and listen to these people repeatedly tell me what laws that they get to follow and what laws we shouldn't. It's outrageous.
Along those lines, I want to play for you this piece of video that is making the rounds on the internet because the Minneapolis chief of police, Brian O'Hara, is now comparing Mary and Joseph of, Jesus fame to the people who are being arrested by ICE. Let's just listen to the tape. Go ahead.
It's especially personal to me, having been raised a Catholic, to be in a Christian church this morning as we are approaching Christmas. And I cannot help but think of what is happening in our city today and how that echoes with how outsiders have been treated for thousands of years, how Mary and Joseph themselves were considered outsiders and forced to stay in a barn. That's what we're getting ready to commemorate as Christians around the world, while all of this fear is happening right here in our town.
I remember the Christmas story a little bit differently. I think that they were going to register for the census and they had to go to this town where everyone was going and the inns were all closed. So someone offered them a manger because that was the only spot left. That's what I remember. I don't remember them being outsiders. I don't remember them being treated like they weren't loved. I don't know. The whole thing is ridiculous to me. What did you make of that?
So I was born and raised a Catholic. I was in Catholic school through fourth grade, and I was an altar boy through my senior year. And my memory of the Bible is exactly the same as yours. So I think the first thing that I would respectfully recommend to Chief O'Hara is that maybe he should go read that book one more time before he, starts talking about it. That's kind of number one. And number two, one of the things that my priest taught me through catechism and before I got confirmed, and certainly through the entire Catholic upbringing process, is that you protect your neighbor at all costs. That is number one. And you don't wait for the police. You don't wait for anybody else. You protect your neighbors. And that is the number one thing that we were taught as kids. When I see people that are going out and arresting pedophiles, that they're arresting murderers, they're arresting men that beat women, that they're arresting rapists, and we're comparing those to Mary and Joseph, it gives you a little insight into how wackadoodle Minneapolis truly is right now. It's been reported by Alpha News that the person that's actually executing on the policy of Minneapolis Police Department not helping ICE is the number two person, Katie Blackwell, who sued Liz Collin when I defended Liz Collin in that defamation case. And these are the people that are leading us. And I can tell you because I have been endorsed by the MPD Federation, the line cops want to help. They actually want to help ICE. They understand this. And this is one of the dangers, too, that is out there, is that by not helping ICE, and this goes to the sheriffs, too, that they're requiring ICE to actually arrest people outside of jails. So when they've been taken into custody, ICE is not being permitted to come into jails and to take these people into custody. They have to wait till they've been released.
Yeah, where it would be a whole lot safer and a whole lot less disruptive, exactly. Right? It's so counterintuitive. But I think you and I both know. that if it were President Biden who ordered these ICE raids, there would be no resistance to it. It's the source of this order, I think, that is people losing their minds and pushing that resistance. You talked about opening a book, opening the Bible.
Quick,
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I saw on your podcast where you played clips of Clinton and Obama talking about immigration enforcement. Right. I saw on your podcast when they were doing that and talking about we need to make sure that our borders are secure and to get these people out. You played those things on your podcast.
I have.
And now, I mean, again, what the hell happened? I mean, where did all that go? I mean, this is what today's Democratic Party is, particularly in Minnesota right now. Yeah. It has gone so far left that, frankly, people are thirsty for somebody to just come in and talk about pragmatism and common sense. Yeah. And we just need to get back to smart, reasonable people running government rather than these wackadoodles.
I would also suggest that people review some of the videos, and I will try to say this without tearing up because I've been really emotional about Bondi Beach in Australia. And if people could look at those videos and look at how people laid their lives on the line to protect their friends, their citizens, these Jewish people that were simply there to celebrate. And it was some immigrants that were there that wreaked this horror on Sydney, Australia. Okay, we're going to get away from that because I'm sorry to let my emotions get in the way.
I feel the same way you do. Honestly, one of the biggest things that's caused me to reflect ever since October 7 was just the amount of anti-Semitism that is prevalent in our society. Mm-hmm. And it is shocking to me. And I've actually reached out to a number of my Jewish friends and just apologized. I was just at a fundraiser this morning and I just go up to them and apologize for everything that's happening and what they must feel. But when our college campuses right now are more or less supporting people that are behind Palestine and doing nothing with respect to supporting Jewish students, and again, to talk about hypocrisy, I mean, all I saw the entire time as the lead up after Hamas took everything, he said, we need to have a ceasefire. We need to have a ceasefire. The minute that the president achieves a ceasefire, crickets. Mm-hmm. I don't hear one person saying, thank God that got accomplished. Thank God that's there. I don't see one person saying that. And again, I understand there's going to be some people that do not like various things that the president says, but we need to be able to give credit where credit is due. And honestly, in my lifetime, I can't think of a president that's done more and been more focused on global peace and trying to stop wars than President Trump. I can't think of one.
We've lost our minds. We've lost a little bit of our moral compass. We've lost our sanity. Let's get to education. This is a big one for me as well. When I moved to Minnesota more than 30 years ago, education was like one of the bragging rights of this state. Everyone talked about how great this school system was and this school district was, and you can't go wrong in this school district. And now we see kids, and there's a story out of Hopkins, Minnesota, which is a suburb of Minneapolis, where, the reading and math are so abysmal, the rates that kids can effectively read and do arithmetic. Where do you start? If you're the governor of Minnesota, where do you start?
When I was a kid and growing up, if you were trying to tease somebody for being dumb, you kind of said that they're from Iowa. But they were, but as a kid, they were just a little dumb. If you wanted to kind of go nuclear on the kid and say that they were really, really dumb, you said that they were from Mississippi. That's right, what you always said.
I remember that, yeah.
Mississippi now 9th in 4th grade reading proficiency. We're 39th. Mississippi actually started in 2013. They passed more or less a phonics reading act, and they started holding back kids at 3rd grade if they weren't hitting 3rd grade level. And they just excelled. And they're a third cheaper than we are in dollars per pupil. And one of the things I've said, and I can't believe that I'm saying it because you're from here too, is we need to do what Mississippi's doing. Mississippi is teaching kids, and they're actually succeeding at it cheaper than what we are doing. And they're actually getting real concrete results where we're spending more time with respect to the classroom trying to teach kids what to think rather than how to think.
Exactly.
And I think we just need to redo that focus. And I don't frankly think it's that big of an ask either. But when you look at that, from 2000, staff has gone up 132%. Teachers have gone up about 4%, in terms of the body count. I mean, in Minnesota, it's insane. But I just recently saw a statistic too. If you look at school counselors in Minnesota and students per student counselor, we rank 48th in the country right now. So 2 questions on that. One, who are all these staff? I mean, what are they? Because they're not assistant principals or principals. They're not included within that number. And then second, I just saw the governor yesterday talking about gun violence, and oh my God, because that's pretty much where he's got 2 or 3 issues that he can actually concentrate on. Who better to identify problem youth into the future than a school counselor? Mm-hmm. We're 48th. I mean, the priorities that we have in education right now are so backwards and putting us so far back when places like Mississippi start beating us. And the thing that I keep reminding everybody, you're currently being led by a teacher.
I question his credentials constantly, but I will say this to you anecdotally. I tried to become a reading tutor in Minnesota because I had a lot of extra time, and I thought, post-COVID, there are kids that need to learn how to read. I'll talk to any kid anywhere. Send me. But you've got to go through this training process, right? And the training process was not about how will you sit down with a kid and teach them to read. It was about implicit bias. It was about, they said, okay, they showed a chart. I kid you not, on this Zoom meeting, they showed a chart. Black and blank, man and blank, salt and blank, peanut butter and blank. Let's fill in the blanks. Well, naturally, you're going to say salt and pepper, peanut butter and jelly. Why is that? That's your implicit bias. And this was the emphasis of the 90 minutes. I hung in there, Chris, for as long as I could because I thought I can get past this. I just want to help a kid. Then they started telling me that I needed to honor the kid's gender preference and they might not look like me. And it was this 22-year-old college girl telling me how to tutor a kid in reading purely based on identity politics, implicit bias. The reason kids don't read the same is because of their color of their skin. And we have had white supremacy involved. And that's why these kids can't read. It was brutal. I finally just logged off of the Zoom call because I thought there's no way I can work with this organization. So we need to also, as a state, you notice there's a phrase that gets thrown around with education in Minnesota, and it's this: let's fully fund education. What the hell does that mean exactly? Excuse my language. I don't know what it means. There's no benchmark. There's no dollar amount. It's like this never ending. We got to fully fund. That just simply means we need more. We need more. We need more. And where does it go? And why, if we are trying to spend more money, are the results so awful?
100%. I mean, no better example than Mississippi. I mean, they're spending less and they're accomplishing more. And bless you for doing that, Michele. I mean, bless you for doing that. I mean, and bless you for even just staying in one of those things for 30 minutes. The only thing it sounds like you didn't get was a land acknowledgement of the land that you were sitting on while you owned that.
That may have happened early in the beginning. I don't remember.
Probably did. But there again, I mean, how bad are our priorities right now?
Oh, God.
When we're sitting here 39th in 4th grade reading proficiency, you have volunteers wanting to help on that are being more or less shoved away because you need to learn all this bias training. If you look, correlation and causation are not the same thing with respect to all these race-based things that they want to show you. If you want to show the number one, indicator that has the highest statistical correlation between education levels, it's poverty. It is money. The more that we can lift people out of poverty, the better their education is going to be. you do that by making sure that single mothers and by young couples are not saddled with hundreds and thousands of dollars of tax for going and working and being incentivized to stay home.
Incentivized to stay home. Remember that, people. It matters because there's this massive gap between when you get benefits, right? Because you're not making enough. And then you start to try to make more because you want to make more money so you can give your family a better life. Well, then the benefits drop off. So now you're incentivized to go, well, maybe I shouldn't work those extra hours. I'll just stay home and collect the benefits. It's insane.
My brother, as a small business owner, specifically has told me about people that have said, I can't have that many hours because it's going to trigger the point where I'm going to either have to pay my loans back or I'm not going to be able to qualify for my housing.
Correct.
And we are literally putting this incentive for people to stay at home. And
stay in poverty.
And then on top of that, I've represented a number of affordable housing businesses. They are leaving and have left the state of Minnesota because of how the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency treats them. That they are saying they're making it so unpalatable for them to be able to conduct business here. They're saying, screw it, I'm going to another state. And some of these affordable housing places, there's one literally in St. Anthony, Maine. It's an artist loft. This is premier property with a view of the city right across there. They're saying, forget it, I'm done. And stainless steel appliances, granite countertops, everything in there. They don't want to have anything to do with this because of how difficult housing is getting in Minnesota and how the Walz administration is treating them. But this has been building year after year.
Yeah.
And again, I'm sorry to get my soapbox, but this is among the reasons that I'm running. Nobody's doing anything about this.
Yeah.
All they ever do is complain. And we just have to actually accomplish something here.
Well, before I let you go, last thing I want to say is because, why is Minnesota worth saving? I mean, listen, I remember when I moved here, when I saw my first spring, I remember all the things that I loved about this place. And then, obviously met my husband and we raised our family here. You obviously want to save Minnesota. I want to save Minnesota. Tell our audience why it's worth saving.
Oh, the people that I grew up with, the people that are my friends and neighbors. And there is something different, as you well know, about being a Minnesotan. There's just something different. I mean, Prince once said that, that the cold keeps away the bad people. Apparently that's kind of changed now, and there are a number of bad people. But if we can go after these bad people aggressively, we can bring this back. We can bring back that Minnesota that you and I love so much. But the weather here, the people, it is just a phenomenal place to live and to raise a family. We've just gotten off track. But we can change this going forward. And I think that if we communicate this message well enough, there are so many people in the suburbs that see this. They really want to be able to vote for a Republican. They really do. And it's just simply a matter of bringing them into the fold and communicating a message that tells them these priorities, when you're talking about fraud, you're talking about safe streets, education, cost of living, and right-sizing the government. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I do not understand why those are political. Those are at core Minnesotan, and we have just lost our way. But, you know as well as I do, there was not a debate for me to come back after law school. This is the greatest state that there is, and I'm not leaving here. I'm not leaving here damn sure without a fight.
I end every podcast, Chris, by saying, be brave and do good. And I've said this to everyone who's running. This is the truth. It takes courage to run for office, and it's clearly because you want to do some good. So I commend you on both of those things. I think we have one more candidate we still have to interview to complete this series, but I so appreciate your time today. He is Chris Madel, and you've seen on the screen there how you can go but if you want to say it verbally, how people can find you so that if they're listening on Spotify,
sure.
Go ahead.
It's madelforgovernor.com. And seriously, Michele, thank you so much for everything that you've done with respect to your podcast. I mean, obviously a listener and a watcher with respect to what you do. And you really have advanced the ball tremendously on behalf of the truth in Minnesota.
It's all we can try to do. It's all I can hope to do. It's Let's hope so. But thank you again for your time, Chris. Check him out and check out our entire series with these governor interviews. The field is 10 now, and we'll see what happens after the new year. Chris Madel, thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle.
You can keep up with the Trump administration when you subscribe to the Trump Report. It's an email that brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week. Subscribe today at SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump.